You got
Here
me
we are.
up. You got me up 7 in the morning.
Yes,
I
I
got
know.
my coffee.
He's got his coffee. So it's guys, it's 9 p.m. in Australia. It's 7 a.m. in America. So we're very, very fortunate to have Mr. Billy Fajardo, the director of the World Salsa Summit from America, joining us. He very graciously agreed to get up early in the morning to join me to have a chat about dancing stuff that's going on in the world at the moment and the things that have happened in the past. He's got so much experience and knowledge when it comes to dance and competitions and music and sort of everything that everyone's really passionate about. So I'm very honored to have him give us our time, his time. And yeah, if you have any questions, you're welcome to put your questions in the comments section, and then we can go through them as we go. But I wanted to speak to you a lot about your competition, because you've been running the summit now for how many years?
8. It's going
8
on
years
8.
at the summit.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll have it.
Fingers crossed for next year.
Yeah.
When was the first World Championships held, like, for salsa? Like, not like a ballroom competition or something, but when was the first one held?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, Ballroom tried to do World Championships through the IDO, the International Dance Association, back in the late 90s, like 99 on. They actually held it here in Miami at a ballroom event, and they had invited a lot of people. So that was like the first time, but it wasn't the salsa scene. They had some couples from the salsa scene, but then they had some people from ballroom scene from all over Europe, because they mostly come from Europe, the IDO. It doesn't come from the United States. People considered the Mayan, it's a club in LA, as determining who's the best salsero at the time. But New Yorkers were never there, and nobody else was never there. You know, Johnny Vasquez was there, and several other people were there. But that was like the first time that competition first took grip in the community in a big way, because we always had competitions. Don't get me wrong. You see, I'm trying to give you a little bit of history why. Of course,
I appreciate it.
If you want to go, you know, and say, okay, when was the first official one? You could say that because of the span, in other words, how many people it gathered, I would have to say ESPN. But prior to ESPN, because ESPN was like 2005 or 6 or something, you had Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico, the reason why I didn't consider it a world championship, even though the dancers considered it a very credible competition to win, right? The reason why they call it, because it didn't have representation of the entire world. You kind of have to have, for it to be a legitimate world championship, in my opinion, you got to have, I mean, there's 200 and something countries. You know, and if you look at the map, you ever counted how many countries there are? There's like 200 something countries. So for someone to have 10 countries, is that representation of a world championship? No. If it's somewhere around 35 and up, you know, then you're talking. So the ESPN had about 43, 44, 45 countries. That's pretty large, right? Puerto Rico didn't have that, even though it was a really hard competition to win. You know, you go there, you do your showcase first, then you have to do this live improv, you know, live music. And that's a really hard thing to do, especially when you're asked to do all these tricks, tips, and drops and all this nonsense, right? But then, you know, there was another competition I held, me personally I held. It was called the International Hustler and Salsa. And that goes back to 98. And that was called the International Salsa Championship. Again, not a world championship. It doesn't have representation. So I would have to go with the first one, in my opinion, would be ESPN. That's when, you know, the Salsa 7, I call them, because, you know, it was 7 people that invested. And the front man was Albert Torres. And because he had already been going around the world to different congresses and everything, it was easy for him to kind of like put the stamp on his chest and take it everywhere around the world. And that's how we got the whole thing about qualifying. Right. You know, qualifying from different countries. The thing is, you know, I always had an issue with qualifying for an event. Yeah. Because I don't think it fully represents the best in the world. you can get a country that doesn't have that maybe the best dancer didn't get an opportunity to dance or something. Then you get someone that's not as good, but it represents that country, and that's not really getting the best. When, for whatever political reasons, financial reasons, or whatever reason might be, someone pissed somebody off. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? What happens? But I would say ESPN in Las Vegas. That would be it.
In 2005.
Yeah, I think it was 2005, 2006. I try not to remember the past too much, but then it reminds me how old I am. So I try not to think. I try not to think about it too much. But yes, it was there.
So since that competition around 2005, like the changes in the scene from then have been huge, like huge changes. And even the competitions have changed a lot as well, because I know at some competitions you need to display, or in the past you had to display elements of freestyle dancing just to be able to do your showcase, right?
Yeah, we tried that. We did state that in the rules, but I don't remember ever implementing it. I think it fell by the wayside because we found ourselves with like 300 couples. We found ourselves with so many people in Las Vegas that the issue wasn't, we had no time because you had TV involved. So we had no time to go through, the preliminary rounds in a heated format and then go do your showcase. I think what happened was that we ended up doing showcases. It was in the rules and a lot of confusion, but a lot of couples came over and they were asking, are we going to do this? I said, no. On the local level, they were doing it. But I said, here, we can't do it. After analyzing the situation, we sat down, had a meeting. I don't think we'll be there all day. I mean, we were there all day anyway. You know what I mean? But we would have been, forget about it. It was just ridiculous. And then we had to do the on-site qualifying, meaning people had to come from wherever they came because they didn't qualify, and then they'll dance there, which I found, to be truthful with you, a bit of a sham because everybody that came made it. So it was like, okay, who are we going to eliminate? And nobody, and Salsa 7 didn't want to eliminate anyone because they spent so much money to get there. And I said, but this is a competition. People lose.
Yeah.
I mean, by not letting them lose, what are you teaching them? What are you giving them? The whole point is to raise the level of dance to the point where you're going to get the best in the world. And you elevate the dance itself. I mean, the community didn't even know the terminology in terms of competition. Like if I was, like we were doing descriptions in our rules and regs, well, trick steps and drops and flares. And then everybody's saying, what's a flare? And it was, they didn't know what a flare was. And then they didn't know what combined tricks are and how long you could last. And it was very descriptive, but I found out really quick that nobody knew. And it's not their fault that they didn't know. I just assumed, which was my problem, that they would know, or they would research, or they would go out and get someone to teach them. But there are many places that don't have access to the type of professionals. They might even have that information, right? So I find myself in the ballroom the first night, the first day, literally looking at every routine, critiquing it and telling them, you have too many tricks. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this, you're doing that, right? And I sat there for 9.5 hours going through as many competitors as I can. And that was the beginning of the process of educating the competitors' environment in the salsa scene.
Wow.
It's taken us a while, right? Now you mentioned that the level has jumped. Yeah, because once talented people or talented dancers get a grip of what it is, and they really learn how to train, they really learn the process of competing at a high level, you're going to get that jump. You're going to get it. And we got it. I mean, the first few competitions that I saw were terrible. Choreographic. No, I mean, I don't want to. I mean,
I know what you mean.
I'm kind of like brutally honest sometimes, and sometimes I catch myself and say, you got to be careful. You can't, people are going to be upset with you. But I just think that, at the time we were all learning and the community wasn't ready yet. I think they are now. I think the salsa and bachata scene has clearly established that they have a presence in this community.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, in my opinion, I think the best acts in Congresses today are all competitors. You get very, very little percentage of the people that are closing at Congresses that isn't a competitor or hasn't won something or isn't a champion at it. You understand? I rarely see that. Rarely see it anymore. And that shows you the level they're on.
Absolutely. Do you feel like because I know that competition's changed a lot in the sense that, like take bachata, for example. Bachata was its own division, and then Bachata Cabaret, and then Bachata Central, and it sort of opened up to all of these different like branches of different styles. Have you noticed anything else that's happened? Like I know another good example was with same gender salsa, how in the past it wasn't really a thing, and then it was introduced, and now it's become like one of the highlights of a competition, right?
Yeah.
The same gender category.
I think that was 2007. No. When I first saw them, where were we? I think we were in Orlando. I think the third year in is when Eli came over with his partner, and they entered the On2, and there was a big deal over that. It was like according to the rules, they couldn't. I mean, according to the rules, they had every right to join.
Yeah.
But a lot of us were discussing the point that he wasn't in heels and he was doing all these things in flat shoes. Right. You understand? So was it an advantage? Was it an advantage? Right? It's two men capable of doing things a lot explosive than an average couple. You know, the suppleness of the movement, because when you look at it, it's very sharp, very fast, hard, athletic. Okay, they could be graceful and they try to be graceful. But at the time that I saw it very athletic, and their ability was much higher in terms of doing certain tricks, certain things. Yeah. And the speed of it. But we let them in after like debating for like 4 hours. Originally, I told Eli he can't join, and he got upset, and we were going back and forth. But, you know, we decided to let them in. They took second place that year. So that changed everything, right? Wow. And then now, it opened up a whole new field, which I think is great. I mean, you know, in my opinion, I mean, we've always been a community of inclusiveness. We've always included everybody, you know, artists and dancers and actors and singers. We've always been that way. I rarely come across anyone that's against it or anything like that. And it's grown. I think it's getting a little out of hand. I think that now that they're asking for, you know, to do Pro-Am, and they're asking to do other things. And I'm saying, okay, then maybe we just have to create divisions for you guys. You know, I'm not too sure. Yeah, like they want like the division Just Dance. You know, so you have the Just Hustle, the Just Salsa, and that's just lead and follow, right? Or Just Bachata, Central, or something like that. You know what I mean? They need to be competing against among themselves, and not necessarily demand these categories. You know, we're just going to add a whole new category when, in fact, you have same gender competitions. In ballroom, you've been having them for years. You know. Oh, really? In ballroom as well? Oh, yeah. In ballroom here in the States, they have same gender ballroom competitions where women, men are men, and they have all the divisions, all the dances, everything. It's the same thing. We have yet to do that. We have yet to divide it or anything. We just include them all in, right? But then we do have the same gender. But we keep it open. It's like we don't treat it like the On2 and then the Cabaret and then the On1. We haven't divided it yet. I don't know if there's enough in the field to do that. You know? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because like your competition already runs for like 6 days. So then if you start multiplying divisions and adding on more and more people,
that's a dilemma. It's a dilemma I'm having because everyone every year requests a new division. It's like they can't, it's like they think of it, you know, just another opportunity to get a medal. I have no idea why. And it's like, okay, but if the community is if the community is asking for it, you know, I'll have no problem. Give it to them. It's just I'm running out of time.
Yeah,
You
I
know, we
totally
need, you
understand.
know, yeah, we prep 2 days before, then we get in there, and then everything, the timeline goes, you know, all over the place, and then we have to
Yeah.
add, subtract. I'm amazed that we get through it the way we do. Yeah,
I've
I'm
been to your
amazed.
event. I've been to your event 2 or 3 times now, and I think it gets better every year, and it grows every year. It's growing and growing and growing.
Yeah,
There's one thing that I really like that you do, and it's you have, because I've been to a few different competitions now since I've been competing, and you at some stages in the competition, especially for the final, you have up to 20 judges at the
I
same
have
time.
24.
This is incredible.
Well, I think the most I invest, look, the investment has to be in the actual act of executing the competition.
Yeah.
Forget the promotion. You know, a lot of promoters spend a lot of money on promoting it, getting people that no. If you build the competition that's consistent, that has, you know, of course we all have problems, right? But you try to minimize those problems, right? And therefore, and the one thing that we have to be clear about, transparency has to be there.
Yeah.
Always. You understand? So when you're showcasing these judges and you're showcasing the scoring that's done right there, and then the paper goes from here to there, and everyone sees it, there's a sense of, wait a second, this is fair. And then, you know, you keep executing that every year, and you build the confidence of a clientele. They're going to tell other people. I always bet on the integrity of the competition, and try to get the best judges possible. And I try to educate them and sit down and have conversation. All the team that I have is, I have like a team of 10, and
Yeah.
these are my main people. They're there every year, so they kind of like school everyone else when they come in. When a new judge comes in, they kind of get the whole riot act. You know, this is what we expect. This is what we expect from you. Not that we're telling them how to pick people. We're telling them how to behave. You
Yeah.
understand? How to behave. It's really important that judges understand that. You can't have conversations with competitors that are about to compete and you're about to judge them. You
Yeah.
understand? I don't come from that place. You know, I come from a place that I walk into the ballroom and I'm going to do my job and then I'm going to walk out, and I don't expect to have any conversations with any competitors until after they've danced, after their competition is done. You know, by rule, I tell all my judges, please don't work with any of these people during the competition. I don't want other competitors just to look at them and say, okay, they got an upper hand or anything like that, or even the perception of it doesn't even have to occur, right? But the perception is what we have to look at. So no,
So
I think the growth at Summit has everything to do with that. You know what I mean? The integrity of the judging is what I think. You know, I'm convinced that's what it is.
How, because you've got your core team, how do you go about finding new judges? Is there something that they do that like draws you in or gets your attention?
No. I work with them. During the course of the year, I also go to like 40 congresses a year, you know, to go perform and judge and do everything else. So I'm always looking, evaluating. I have conversations with them. There's a lot of downtime sometimes when you're sitting at a judge's table waiting for something. So, you know, you have these conversations with them, and I have a pertinent questions I kind of ask. I like to hear what they have to say. Sometimes I just ask questions that I already have the answer, but I ask anyway because I want to hear their take on it. I want to hear what they have to say. I think the characteristic of judge, man, is if you make a call, defend it and be able to debate that and be able to make that decision and convince the people that you're going to have a conversation with, that this is how I arrived at this particular, decision, and sound confident and believe in what you also do. If I get a judge that makes a decision and second guesses it, or comes to me and says, I'm not too sure about that, can I look at the scores again? That's a sign I don't want that guy. I don't want that person. I can't judge with that person. I don't want him on my panel. I have to have decisiveness. It has to be. I'm probably one of the fastest judges you'll see. I mean, I got that and I throw it away. I'm gone. Because what I'm looking for is my first instinct. The first thing I see. I'm not second guessing it. I'm just looking at it, collecting everything, data, and then I can make a decision.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare them. I'm not making notes. I'm not doing anything like that. You know, but then again, I practiced and I've been doing it for a long time. I don't expect
Yeah.
everybody to be as quickly, but you're going to have to be efficient. You know, judges. Yeah, can't stay there forever. You stay in your head. You'll have about 3 different placements for them.
That's what you said to us when we did the judging certification course with you in America. You said it, like, obviously it's challenging at first, but over time it will get easier.
Over time, it gets a lot easier. Of course, people, when they first hear that, they say, what are you talking about? How can you not make notes? How can you keep track? But the whole point is, the way I look at it, you're not trying to keep track. You know, because the competition is judged by, let's say you have 10. So if you're like over here struggling and trying to make a decision, then you're looking at it like you're the only judge that matters. Like you have 9 other people there.
Yeah.
You know, I can give the same score for 9 couples. It's going to come out different because I have other opinions there.
Yeah.
And I'm betting on that. You understand? So this whole comparison thing, I don't do that. I don't do any of that relative placement stuff. I don't.
Because you're mentoring and coaching a lot of dancers all throughout the year. Like, I know when you go overseas, people are asking you for your opinion because they want you to critique their competitive dancing and their routines and these things. What's some of the most common things that you work with individuals, like on their routines or with their dancing? What's the most common thing you deal with?
I mean, I try not to get involved in their fundamental dancing. In other words, a lot of them already have their own instructors. So I don't contradict instructors. I try not to be that way.
Yeah.
The most common thing is choreographically how they present their material. I think that's where they fall short.
Yeah.
You know, how to present it properly. You know, a perfect example is, you know, giving your back to the judges too often.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of crossing your partner too many times. If you're a male and you're crossing your partner too many times, I don't get to see this person here. Turn patterns can be presented forward and not necessarily you doing turn patterns in a circle. So you kind of like continually rotate around them. So it doesn't have, it looks more social and not presentational for the stage.
Right.
Because there's a big difference between how you dance socially and how you dance on stage. It amazes me that I still have people that I talk to that think that's what they're supposed to be doing. You know, competition dancers, like, you know, because they're a great social dancer, they automatically should fare well in this competition. You know, this is the biggest. We still have that dilemma. I'm like, no, that's impossible. You know, competition is gone. It's no longer there. It's not in the club. It's not. You know, it's not an audience participation thing where you kind of dance and the audience picks you because you're the favorite. No, you're going to get critiqued for specific things and you need to deliver those things. And one of them is, you know, how you present your choreography. You know, I mean, of course, does it limit some of the things you can do circular or as you exchange sides when you do turn patterns? Maybe, but I find that when you take competitors and you kind of put them in a corner a bit, that they will be very, very clever. You know, they'll come up. You have to be forced to, so to speak. So, so that's the one thing. Is choreographically. Yeah. That's the most common. They don't present it properly, or utilize the floor properly. Yeah.
There's something that I'm curious about because the dancing scene, like a lot of scenes around the world, it has trends. So do you see trends in costumes or in certain moves or in tricks every year, like consistently? Do you see someone does it one year and then it gets replicated or enhanced another year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every time a top couple or top team or same gender comes out or solo, a tad of it is good, the stylization is good, all that. But, you know, it's not a popular thing I'm saying. You know, people don't want to hear that. You know, when you have a trend and you have people doing it and Congresses teaching it and this whole new, you know, so many people interested in this, so many couples to do it well, right? Then they want to do it. And the thing is that, okay, so then now I have to get judges on my panel that either studied it or knows it really well and got to change the rules, you know.
Right.
the competition, and I just think that's too broad. I think to come to show who's best at salsa, let's stick within that. Or bachata, let's stick within that. Or cha-cha, let's stick within that. Now, if you want to have a rumba or Afro competition, let's have that category, have it in. But I'm going to have judges to deal with that, you know. And I'm already bringing in 20 some odd judges. What I'm going to do, bring in another 10? You know what I mean? That's an expertise that you really have to know that work. You do. You know, Michael Fonts, for instance, Alfredo Valdez from Italy. I mean, I can name a lot of people, you know. I mean, and there are some people that do all of it. It's just some judges that do all of it. It's just, you know, right now, I don't think there's a need to have to add a category, but I do know that if a competitor comes and, you know, half that song is Afro, of course he's going to want to do Afro, right? But then we're not judging Afro. So then what happens? You know, they don't place, they don't win or whatever, and then they're angry. They're wondering why. You know, when the event is called, you know, World Salsa Summit. It's not called the World Salsa Afro Summit. It's not called that, you know. So, you know, it's, but again, you know, it's evolving and the congresses are evolving, and it's great to have everything because, you know, it's all part of the culture, it's all part of the history. I get all of that, you know, I do. And I love it all. I like dance, period. It doesn't matter where it comes from. I like to learn as much as I can about everything.
Do you think there should be more focus on the history and the music and where these things come from?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for kids not to know who I'm going to use this as an example. It's an extreme example, but I did speak to someone that didn't know who Celia Cruz was and Tito Puente, which is like, how can you not know these people, you know? Or even go further back where you have the big three from the Palladium, you know, Tito Rodriguez and Manchito and Tito Puente, you know, to not know what's going on. Especially, like, the music is pretty easy because you could trace that back, Google it, you could talk to a lot of people. They'll tell you a lot of information about that. But what they don't do is they don't know the history of the dances. They were at the Palladium. They were at, you know, certain places in Puerto Rico or Cuba or wherever they come from, New York. They just don't know enough. Like, the phenomenon of competition has been around forever. You know, in the Palladium, they had a competition. You understand? It was Showtime. Yeah, they had Showtime. And that's a form of competition because all the best couples used to go out. And if you closed on that night, you were like the top dog, you know. You had Cuban Pete, Millie DeMay, you had Augie and Margot Rodriguez. And the thing is, in 1950, I think it's 4 or 3, there was a competition called the Harvest Moon Ball, which is in New York City, and it was sponsored by the New York Post, right? Well, Augie and Margot Rodriguez won that Mambo championship. You understand? So the competition has been around for forever. Yeah. You know, forever. I didn't invent it. I didn't know. No way. And in the salsa scene, in the clubs in New York, there was always a competition. Now, what you win is maybe a bottle of champagne and maybe a bag of, you know, bag of smoke, you know, marijuana. Yeah, you know. I remember joining a competition in the 70s. You know, we used to have like what is called social clubs. And social clubs are not really a club like you get in Manhattan, like a discotheque or a club like that. It was a social club where people gathered and hung out. And they would sell liquor, but they didn't have a liquor license. And they'll let anybody in. You know, it was just one of those. It was in the ghetto. But I remember competing, and we won, a girl named Angela and myself. I don't know how old I was. I was maybe 16 or 15 years old. They gave me a little small trophy like this, but in the cup, there's marijuana. You know? Yeah, you know, stuff like that happened. So, but there was competition all the time, you know. Right. I always competed. I loved it because I did martial arts. So I competed in martial arts, you know. When I got into dance, that's the first thing I did was started to, how do I get better? Who's the best? I'm looking for the best in New York so I can compete against them. You know, that was just my attitude, you know. And then when I saw Augie and Margo for the first time, this dance team that came out of the Palladium, they're the ones that trained me and mentored me. I saw them. They were like, you know, because back then, if you study ballet, you know, they had the stigma attached to it. And I saw them perform at a club called, not a club, a big ballroom on 52nd Street off of Broadway. And it's called Roseland Ballroom. Very historic. It's been there. It's no longer there, but it was at the time. It was about 100 years old, or 90-something years old, something like that. And I saw Augie and Margo Rodriguez perform, and they were so polished. You know, they were polished. Wow, I'm saying, look at the lines these people were creating. Look at the way they look. Look at the costumes they had. And because I knew the manager of the place, he let me go downstairs to address them, and I started to talk to them. And I found out, you know, they met at the Palladium. They got married. They had a child. You know, she's from Harlem. He's from Brooklyn. He's Dominican. She's Puerto Rican. You know, and they were heterosexual. He was heterosexual, and I identified with him very quickly and asking him questions. I would go to his apartment, you know, because they lived on 56th Street, 55th Street, between 7th and Broadway. So every time I go to New York, I would drop by if they were in town, you know, because they were always on tour. They performed a lot with Sammy Davis Jr., and they did a lot of big things in Las Vegas. They were very popular. They were on TV shows all the time. And at the time I met them, they were on their down, they were coming down. So they were like 43 years old at the time. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the conversations we had. And one of the things he always told me is, Billy, go train. Go take up ballet, go train, get something disciplined, you know, teach your body to create these things. And that's what I did. I went to train and train and train. And that's, you know, of course, that came with another thing, you know, trained dancers at the time, you know, you wasn't authentic, you know, your salsa or your hustle or whatever you did didn't look the same. Of course not. You're training so you can get on stage so you can make money. You know, the whole point. So you could be a working professional, you know, not a social.
Do you recommend that your competitors or dancers go and upskill in other styles as well to better help their competition?
Look, the good news is that back then, the definition or the way they instructed someone in salsa or any of the social dances was not very well defined. They were still adding things. There was still whatever in the mix. I mean, Mambo was on his Mambo came in on the 40s and 50s, right? And then the 60s, it was still around, right? And then in the 70s, we made this transformation because the salsa scene came in, the music. Then, of course, the recounting of Mambo became salsa. You understand? Because Mambo is 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. You understand? So the 2 and the 6 is the emphasis, but you're starting on that. It isn't 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. You understand? So it changed the dynamic. Also, we used to stand, because I learned it that way. The male used to go forward on 2, like you do when you do shines. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing. But now the male goes back. Well, that wasn't around in the early 70s. That's not the way we dance. We always dance going back in New York, because that's the way I learned it. I didn't go forward. Okay. You know, so that's my experience, right? Yeah. But now it's been so well defined. It's teachable, really, really teachable. It's got a great technique. The technique is very visible if you practice the technique. So that's a form of training. Right. You understand? So you can get a pure salsero that has really good training, and he's going to look fantastic, right? Yeah. Without having to take the ballet. But I will say one thing, ballet training, the flexibility, the awareness it gives you about your body will give you longevity. It will keep you dancing longer. You avoid injury. There's a lot of benefits from dancing ballet. It's not just to create a toe, you know, point your toe. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks, you know, that's what it is. No, there's a lot more to it, right? But I think a combination of, the most interesting combination I like is like a person like Alian. It's like one that does salsa, but one that does Afro, one that does rumba, one that could do salsa, but study ballet. And she has like the combined thing that when I look at a dancer, I'm saying, wow, look at this girl, you know, Tamara is another one that has formal training. There's a lot of girls that have formal training, but also have good salsa training and enhance that with some of the other trainings of Afro and all that. So I think all of it is good. It's just a matter of what your body can and cannot do, or what you're willing to train in. But do I think that you have to? No, you don't have to. You don't have to. I do think you have to polish your routine. I think you need a coach. I think you need someone to help you come to that place, right? But even if you train, you might not know what to do.
So if you had to give a dancer 3 tips to improve their competition dancing, what 3 tips would you give them?
To me, okay, of course you have to train in the particular dance you're doing. So let's say, if you're going to do salsa, then dance salsa a lot. Like I remember when I trained in ballet and jazz and modern, I would be doing 4 minimum hours a day. And I did that for like 10 years. Right. But then at the same time, I was also teaching martial arts. So I was staying fit. I mean, more fit than the dancing was making me fit. So, I believe that, in my opinion, the physicality of whatever you're doing has to be taken out in order for you to perform it and be an artist or a competitor. And that's the one thing, that's the one tip I give everyone. If you want to come into this arena and you want to compete, then show it like it's not right. Go like this. The minute you do that 2-minute routine, you should not be sweating. You should not be breathing hard. You should be ready to do it again.
Yeah.
And that becomes, and I see couples, I can't believe it because, I've been dancing a really long time. Okay. I would say about 47 years. Right. And for most of that time, when I was contracted to do a show, I'm doing 10 shows a week. And the show was an hour and a half. So I was doing big production numbers. You understand? Just think about going out and doing a 2-minute act and thinking that that's a big deal, that you're sweating and you're breathing hard. No, that's pitiful, in my opinion. I look at that and that's pitiful. Are you kidding me? You're a dancer. There's supposed to be athletic gracefulness. You should be able to do, you should be graceful. That's big, but you have to be athletic and you have to be in shape. You can't go out there. I'm 63. I'll swallow 2 minutes. I'll do 2 minutes like it's nothing. It's ridiculous. And so when I hear young kids, I see them sweating, and that's bad. And I see it a lot in competition. Don't get me wrong. Towards the end of their, let's say they do 1:45, their last 15 seconds, they're dying. You can see it. You can see it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, okay, is he worthy of being a champion? Is that worthy? No. And the material might be great, right? The choreography might be great. The musicality might be great. But if this guy is slugging around, barely, can walk, having a hard time, that's like the biggest tip I have. I mean, I have a few other things, but they're not politically correct. So I don't know if I should say them. I'm only kidding. I mean, costumes, it's important that you have costumes that fit, of course. That's part of your whole presentation, I don't want to go there about the body and stuff like that, I mean?
You did touch on it during the judging seminar, and it was great. I totally get where you're coming from.
I'm old-fashioned. I'm a little old-fashioned, I come from the mindset that and this is I'm not trying to disregard other people's dreams. I'm not trying to, hurt anyone. I'm not trying to do anything. It's just I was trained a completely different way. It's when I was on the shows, I'm on a scale, once, twice a week, because the promoter, the choreographer is demanding that you fit into your costume.
Right.
And today it seems like that's not, I don't know if it's, I don't know what exactly occurred that it, during the course of what, I guess it's just, I'm learning how to not shame anyone because I don't want to do that. I don't want to, shame anyone because they're heavy or You know, I don't want to shave piece that's short or that this or that. I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm trying to do. But this other side of the coin is that I've dedicated my whole life into staying trim and fit, so then I can present my body in a certain way in front of the public, so the public feels like they got 100% from me. You know, that's my mindset, right? So I just, you know, it's taken me a long time to accept what has been presented to me over the years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting better. You know, I'm getting better at it. I am, you know, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I'm not even gonna say
That's
much.
okay. You don't have to elaborate further. Because you're going to so many events around the world, are there any places in particular that stand out to you that you go,
Yeah.
okay, they're doing really good work here?
Yeah, Mexico.
Yeah?
Yeah. To me, in overall, they are becoming some of the best competitors in the world. You know, the rest of the world doesn't get to see them because a lot of them can't leave.
Yeah.
You know, they can't go up. But they are terrific. They're basic. I mean, when I watch the males basic, especially, it's the males that get me. They step out everything, and it's very clear and very even. They're basic. It's not like the one half of the basic is you know, where you have the ball on your heel and you progress forward. It is an actual back break. It is an actual forward break. It's an actual bend to straighten action. Their hips are engaged. Their whole counter body is fluid, and it looks natural. Right. You know, and I look at their ability of their hands. They're very sharp. You know, yeah, that's every year I go back, I always see more and more. And I'm talking about the lower ranks. I'm not even talking about the upper people. I'm talking about, you know, that's how you know a community, right? You're only as good as the ones over here, the majority, right? The majority of people. So when you look out into a social evening, let's say, you know, at night, Saturday night or Friday night, where you look at the general population dance, that's where you can tell where the community is at. Right. You know, really. I mean, you know, of course you have your top pros. Of course they're going to be good. But it's everyone else that comes underneath them. How good are they? How's the information been transferred? How is it, you know, going? And Mexico is like incredible. And they're young. And they're so young.
That's very true, yeah.
Yeah, they're so young. I mean, of course, Italy, you know, it's always been good. I mean, they've always gotten the best information. Some of the best instructors moved there. You know, 10, 15 years ago, they all moved there. So they get the information. And that's important also, right? You know, who's coming, the information you're getting, is it correct? How good is it? You know, and but to me, everywhere I go, in Mexico. Now, one of the places that I love, now I rarely social dance. But when I do, I have different experiences. You know, sometimes they're terrible, sometimes they're great. But Korea, I went there one year, and there I danced for 4 nights in a row to the early morning. Yeah, Oliver was with me that weekend, and we danced we closed the club every single night because the women, I couldn't feel their arms. You know what I mean? It was just so wonderful.
That's right. Wow.
Oh man, it was so wonderful. You could execute almost any turn pattern with fluidity, their bodies. You know, it wasn't like pushing someone. They didn't contract their arms. They were not pushing you. They weren't aggressive, friendly. It was really fun, a lot of fun. So Korea for me was socially. Huh?
In Seoul, in the capital?
Yeah. Was it Seoul? Can't remember. Spin, the promoter, took me there. Can't remember. You know, it's a long time ago. Long time ago. Like I told you, I don't want to remember too much.
And was it for a competition or for like a congress?
No, it was a congress. It had a congress. But he would have, it was funny because we would do the congress shows and everything somewhere, and then we would go to this club to social dance. So it was the same club to social dance.
Okay. Yeah,
it was the same club. These tickets by bus.
Right.
Yeah, like that. It was, you know, but that was really terrific.
Okay.
You know? And, you know, a lot of people look at me and they say, you know, how come he doesn't social dance? He's never out here. Well, there's a reason for it, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? No, seriously. I mean, I got a hip operation 1.5 years ago.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm pain free. But for 10 years, I had been performing, competing, traveling with a hip that was so bad. I was limping. I was limping all over the place, you know, but I was afraid to get the operation. I don't know what it was going to do to me. You know, I just was scared. I mean, I'm glad I did it, but it actually took my turnout away. So you see my right foot's like this, and my left foot is like this. So it's no longer like this.
Right, okay.
And I can't even, I have to now work, and I'm afraid to work it because I might injure it or something like that. You know, I'm in my head. But, you know, so for the last like 10 years, I couldn't socialize. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't. I was in so much pain, you know. So there's a reason for it.
Definitely.